everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Neck of the Woods. In this brand new series by Planet Protectors, we are going to be exploring the wonders of our world through eco tips, news, experiments, crafts, and so much more. This episode, we have 7 different segments that we're going to get to, and it's going to be amazing. So let's get right into what some of these segments are.
Today, we're going to be making paper. Here's what you need. Leak-proof container, I use a jar, a wire clothes hanger, old paper, pantyhose, cloths or rags, and a cookie sheet. Here's how you do it. First, cut the newspaper into small pieces. You soak the old newspaper in a container for half an hour. Second, make the screen. Do this by stretching the wire clothes hanger into a bit of a diamond shape and putting the pantyhose around it. Secure it with the elastic bands. Then you add a bit more water and either use a blender or shake it by using marbles in a jar to create the pulp. Now, I used nuts and they work just as well. Next, put the pulp over a screen and spread it evenly over the screen that you made. After that, use a rag to dab all of the moisture off of your pulp.
Road salt has been an issue for years, but is there a solution on how to make it more sustainable? Well, we're about to find out right now on Did You Know?
Today, we'll be focusing on something that the City of Toronto uses up to 150,000 tons annually. It's the impact of road salt. Road salt contains a toxic chemical called chloride, and when it's all over the snow and ice, it melts the salt, but it doesn't just disappear. It goes into sewers and can sink into the soil. Then it goes into freshwater rivers, streams, and creeks, and then into lakes, which affects the local ecosystem and wildlife, like otters, turtles, fish, birds, and more animals. And the problem is that we do this every winter. Basically, every public space, like a school, a sidewalk, a big office building, and so many more places use road salt. But We use road salt for our safety. So is there a way that we can still be safe and not have any ice, but still be friendly to the environment? Well, there actually is. First, make sure that you are using it at the right temperature. According to the City of Toronto, quote, salt begins to lose effectiveness at -10 degrees Celsius, and it's ineffective below -20 degrees Celsius, end quote. So be sure to check the instructions on your salt bag. We also put down a lot more salt than needed. For every square meter, you only need 2.5 tablespoons of salt, or on very icy patches. So really just lowering how much salt you're putting in one spot can be beneficial because you are just using less. An alternative to salt is also sand, but sand has an environmental impact on its own. Also, make sure to shovel all the snow away before you put the salt on the ground. You can also get grippers for your boots that help you grip to the ice. Governments are also stepping in and creating salt management plans. You can also use natural alternatives like pickle juice or beet juice.
For years, people have been debating on whether artificial Christmas trees or live Christmas trees are better for the environment. And personally, I've heard both. So right here, right now, we are going to be unpacking the story and seeing which one is better for the environment. And is there one better for the environment? Welcome to This or That.
Now let's go on to the pros of real trees. Number 1, real trees are more local and don't use as many resources to make as an artificial tree. 2, if you pot your tree, it can be planted in the ground after the holidays, and you can have a tree right there on your property. 3, you don't need to store it during the year because they are easily compostable and most municipalities will pick it up. And 4, they release a great smell of pine or balsam. Now let's go on to the pros of artificial trees. They're easier to put together and transport. I mean, you don't need to put them on the roof of your car. 2, you can reuse them for years, but apparently not a lot of people do after some of my research, which can eventually save you money in the long term if you do reuse it and get it for a half-decent price. Number 3, most of them are flame resistant. Number 4, you don't need to water it or keep it alive because it's fake, and you don't need to clean up after it because it doesn't have real needles. Now, those were some pros of both. Now let's go on to some cons of both. First, the cons of live Christmas trees. You always need to be up to date with watering and sometimes sweeping. If you don't water, the tree can die, and depending on when you get it in the holiday season, this might have an effect on how your tree might look for Christmas Day. Number 2, you can only leave it up for a certain amount of time. You can't put it up at the start of November and have it stay until the end of December. It just can't live that long and look as green as it would. So fake trees would look as green. Number 3, to grow the tree, people might have had to use toxic chemicals like pesticides. Now on to some of the cons for artificial Christmas trees. When you're done with these trees, they're not recyclable or compostable, so they would have to be thrown in the garbage bin. Number 2, they're also not local. Almost 90% of all plastic Christmas trees are shipped from China, and that can result in a lot of emissions depending on where you live. Number 3, they are not always made of the best or most environmentally friendly materials. Now let's head on over to our sustainable solution of the episode. It's permeable pavement. Permeable pavement is a type of surface like pavement or cement that has the ability to percolate water. Now this could be in the form of rain or snow if it's warm enough. Then all the water can sink into the soil and go underground, and it can go either into the soil or in underground storage containers. This type of pavement is better than your traditional type because stormwater won't be as big of an issue as it is for some municipalities. With non-permeable pavement, water can have a runoff effect, which can cause flooding, erosion, and do harm to rivers and creeks, and also bring some unwanted minerals to natural spawning areas. And this runoff can also cause road salt to travel to freshwater areas, just like what we talked about earlier. This sustainable solution not only saves money, but also allows for a more natural water cycle. We can use permeable pavement for sidewalks, roads, driveways, and more. But unfortunately, there are some limitations. While it is great, it can also be expensive and is not recommended for high traffic areas, so it wouldn't be great for very busy streets or highways. Also, cold weather has a bit of a negative impact. Snowplows may damage the surface, and road salt, which we talked about earlier, contains chemicals that are not great for this type of cement. So while it does have its pros and its cons, people are still working to make this a great sustainable solution, and we will be seeing more of this for sure in the future. Welcome to Animal of the Episode. This episode's animal is one that you might not think of at Christmas or the holidays immediately, but they do really represent the winter season. It's the cardinal. These omnivores have a lifespan of up to 15 years old in the wild and can weigh up to 0.11 pounds. Wow, that might just be the lightest animal of the episode that there's been. I mean, this is the first episode, so it is the lightest and heaviest at the same time. The male birds are the red ones, and the females are the brown ones. Kind of like the peacock, the female wants to mate with the brightest male, so since the female chooses, the females don't need to be as bright of a color. The cardinal is also the state bird of 7 different states in the United States. The males also will get very far when it comes to protecting their nests and can spend hours at a time fighting others. Luckily for us, these birds are considered least concerned, so let's keep it that way. Now let's head on over to some of our last segments of the episode. It's documentary recommendations. The first documentary recommendation is Mission Blue, which is now streaming on Netflix. The second is Our Planet, which is now streaming on Netflix. And the third is Elephant, which is now streaming on Disney+. Take a look at the screen to see some of the best holiday eco tips out there. For more eco tips, make sure to check out the Planet Protectors Instagram page at planetprotectors_CA, and make sure to stay up to date with all of Logan's sustainable holiday eco tips.